of the composited motion and against the alternative moved by Tina. As Felicity said earlier, we live in a profoundly distorted and distorting society. Creating a culture within our own organisation where comrades can bring issues and deal with issues resulting from that is not a simple question. It is not the case that the only things that we need to deal with in changing the world is protecting ourselves from alien forces that are over there. We have to protect ourselves from alien forces which are in here. They're in here as a result of the fact that we all live in a capitalist society, and that the fight against capitalism is as much a fight to change ourselves, to envisage a different way of being, as it is a fight to change the society that we live in. That's one of the things that many of us have had the privilege and the power of learning from the women's liberation movement. The personal is political. And to have that trivialized into being told that this is about policing is not the sort of statement that a feminist organisation should make.
Anna Fisher, Wandsworth and Merton Branch. Wandsworth and Merton Branch. I was involved in one of the amendments to the Safe Spaces. I was involved in one of the amendments to the Safe Spaces policy, the amendment where we reworked the procedure part. And we were informed by the Solidarity Guide, and we wanted to make a procedure that is flexible, that can be handled in the branch, so all normal kind of small matters can be handled in the branch by a conciliation officer with training provided by Left Unity, with the provision that in serious cases where that isn't, appropriate, it can be passed quickly and straight to the disputes committee for when that's appropriate. So we wanted to make a procedure for when things goes wrong that is flexible and unconfrontational whenever possible. And also to create a culture where we understand that, yes, we've all internalized racism, we've all internalized sexism, we've all internalized homophobia, we've all internalized all these things, and we will act it out. But we need to have a culture where we can say, hey, hang on a minute, and not feel threatened, not feel worried that this is going to, end up into a witch hunt. That we can change, we can help each other change. Let's have a really, truly human and collaborative organization where we can learn and we can change our behavior, and we need to do that to change the world.
Sarah McDonald, Hackney and Communist Platform speaking strongly against the composited motion. The motion started off as a cumbersome, eclectic, confused document. It's now been composited. The words that are in the composite motion are the opposite of what's just happened. It said, it's transparent. This has been untransparent and anti-democratically put forward. What's added to is, because of all that's been added, is more words to something that's already overly long. And the words that have been added add to the sort of wrong-headedness and eclecticness of the document itself. For example, it talks about people being police agents in the same sentence, in the same way it talks about somebody that might use misogynist language. These two things are not the same. If we look at this, what it does is it makes a mistake, and I think that our motion is much better, our alternative is much better because it doesn't do this. It doesn't equate equalities with the disciplinary situation. What this does is it's sort of bureaucratic sentimentalism. It's the expression of the colonization of the left by the bureaucracies of local authorities and trade union movements where these things are seen as commonplace and common sense. It's not. What you create is a shrill, patronizing tone where you say things like, protect our people. You can create farcical bus stops based on loose terms of who decides what emotional boundaries are. Look at the Zionists. What do they say when they say emotional boundaries? Oh, you can't criticize Israel because how does that make me feel? They use this kind of emotional stuff all the time. We want to get away from that for real politics, hard politics. It says, be aware of your language. Well, that could be a banality or it could be an open-ended prohibition. What's wrong with the word denigrate? Today we were told that was racist or something. You know, who decides? Somebody at one conference, I spoke against 50-50 gender representation. Somebody implied I was a Nazi. You know, that was acceptable, apparently. Well, okay, freedom of speech, freedom of speech, freedom to have clear debate. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Is that okay? All right. Robert Eagleton from Birmingham Left Unity. Conference last year, our founding conference, I got up and spoke about how to attract and integrate more young people into our party. And I still said it then, and I'll say it now, sorry. It's through promoting democracy, transparency, and debate, and I believe the Safe Spaces policy undermines all three. Safe Spaces is fundamentally based upon people's subjective interpretations of interpersonal interactions. In other words, what one disabled comrade finds ableist, another disabled comrade won't. And whether you like it or not, this Safe Spaces culture has led to arbitrary suspensions, a curtailment of debate, and with clauses like 4G, we will reserve our venom for those who would destroy our organisation and other political actions. You have to wonder how long it will be until such a nebulous statement is used for witch hunts. As a young person, Safe Spaces does not make me feel included. Since last year, my confidence with regards to public speaking has grown immeasurably. And it's not through being conditioned to have thin skin. And it's not being conditioned, not being able to deal with offence. Rather, it's through fierce debate, serious debate, and learning not to take criticisms to heart, legitimate or otherwise. And I think there are some people, some pro-spaces comrades, who really do create a false dichotomy on this issue. It is far too simplistic to suggest that if you're against safe spaces, you're for oppression, or if you're against safe spaces, if you're for safe spaces, you're against oppression. It's not black or white, okay? And I'd just like to conclude by saying, the war against capitalism is a brutal and consistent one. And we should not be in the business of adopting prefigurative politics. We cannot create utopian bubbles where oppression...
Finish now, please.
Okay. You cannot have socialism in one country. You definitely can't have socialism in one room.
We've got time for 4 more speakers. So, I mean, it's going to be the first 4 sitting down unless anyone reorders themselves.